Hello, and welcome to another episode of This is Rico Trying to Heal My Inner Child. I am Rico, and I'd like to remind everyone that I am not a doctor, I am not a therapist, and I am not a medical professional in any way. Just a regular person trying to navigate through life and trying to navigate what's going on here. Getting better. Still a long way to go, but it's getting better. I have a better understanding of things. Sometimes situations that bother me, I have a little better introspection on it and a little better of understanding, more or less. It doesn't make things okay, but I at least understand them a little bit better. Now, I got off track and went on some different topics, but I want to get back to my home life. Now, on the last video, I was talking about my apartment, and I loved that apartment. It was my first apartment alone, all to myself, and things were good for a while. But after a few years, I couldn't afford to stay there anymore. So I reached a point where I couldn't afford it. We sold the house and I got a pretty good chunk of money out of that, and I spent it all. I spent all of it. I think much of it was just, I used it as a cushion, and I never really paid attention to where I was and how much I had. I just kept using it to pay my rent, kept using it to buy me stuff, kept using it to buy others things. And I hit a certain point where it was all gone, and my debt is up. It's all my own fault. I did it to myself, but it is what it is. And I was just finding it extremely difficult to make ends meet. So my lease was up soon, and I knew I wasn't gonna be able to afford staying there anymore. So I started to look around. I didn't know what to do. I honestly considered talking with my parents and seeing if I could just stay with them for a little while and save some money and then try to get something else after a bit. But I hadn't talked to them in years, and I quite honestly, I would rather sleep in a ditch than to stay with them again. They just take advantage of me, and it's so taxing on my soul and my emotions and just my physical self. It's just exhausting being around them. And but I was desperate. And it turns out that I had an acquaintance that knew someone that had a place that was going to be available soon. And there was a tenant there that was being evicted, but he was taking his sweet time getting out. And the place was promised to me, but because he took so long to get out, I had to stay in the old place longer than I should have after my lease expired. So I had to pay extra. I paid a lot of extra money that I shouldn't have because of that. And took their time getting out, cost me a bunch of money. And that was extremely difficult. I had everything packed. I had every stuff ready to move, but I couldn't go anywhere because they weren't moving. And then when they finally got out, I was able to move my stuff. And it just took a lot longer than it should have. And when your lease is up and you stay in an apartment, they will charge you by the day. And it is not cheap. It is not cheap at all. And that was quite discouraging, but I did what I had to do. And when I was ready, I got all my stuff together and I moved out of there. I hated moving out of there because I really loved that place, but I just couldn't afford it anymore. And I just had high hopes that wherever I went was going to be just as nice or nicer than this place. Now, this place that I was going to was a little bit bigger. No, let's say much bigger. And they were offering me very affordable rent. So I would have been a fool to not take it. But I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with a little more of This is Rico Trying to Heal My Inner Child. Welcome back to This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. I am on the topic of getting out of my old apartment and looking at getting into a new apartment. Like I mentioned before, a friend had a friend that had a place and they were willing to let me stay there for affordable rent, and it was bigger than my old place. So, one of the requirements was in order for me to move in, I had to clean the place myself. Normally, people who own apartments will have a cleaning service come in and clean the whole place before the new people move in. But I had to get out of my old place and I was in a tough spot. So I just was willing to do it myself. The place was gross. One of the carpets, I had to shampoo it like a dozen times. Um, and the decor was interesting, but it was not anything that I was not willing to do. It was all okay. It was the way I like to describe it. It was a room. I'm sorry. It was a hallway with rooms, one big hallway, and then there was kitchen, living room, bedroom, and the hallway had chalkboard paint on the walls, which I found to be quite useful because I would write notes. I would write stuff on there, use chalk, and just write up there whatever I needed. I would sometimes put a grocery list or maybe write my feelings for that day up on the wall. And it was okay. The front, the foyer had like black glitter wall paints painted, and it was interesting, but I was able to make it work. And I finally, after quite a while of cleaning and doing what I could, I started to move in. This place was above a let's call it a crappy establishment. Somebody got mad when I called it that, so I'm going to call it that from now on. I lived above this really crappy establishment, and it as much as that was the case, it was bigger and it was affordable, and even though I was only there for 2 years. I did lose both of my dogs while I was there, and both of them were just to old age. They just reached a point where they just couldn't continue anymore. And that was, quite honestly, some of the most difficult times in my life. I lost them pretty much 6 months apart from each other because they were very close in age. My dog Henry actually passed away in the apartment with us there. Phineas just couldn't continue, so I had to have him peacefully put to sleep. And that was as difficult as that was. It opened up things for me to get my cat. And I've been with Elvira a little over a year, and things have been good. Cats are much different than dogs, but for me, as long as I have some sort of a companion, then I'm okay. And they are so different. They are so different, but they both have their positive qualities. They really do. Not to mention, they both kept me from the edge. They kept me away from the edge. As long as I have this little one watching out, as long as I have this little one that I have to watch out for, then I'm gonna be sure to stick around and watch out for them. So things were comfortable. I decorated the place again like a Halloween museum. Was able to display everything I wanted. I was able to just do it the way I wanted. I made the big kitchen the living room so that I could use the living room as a studio and set up my drums and all my equipment and my DJ equipment. And it was always set up and I was always ready in case I wanted to practice. And that was something that meant a lot to me. But I'm going to take another break and I'll be back with a little more of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Welcome back to This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. For this video, on the topic of my new apartment, my second apartment, I should say, living alone. Um, the place was above a crappy establishment. They were noisy, but the noise didn't really seem to bother me because if they were making a bunch of noise, that meant that I could make a bunch of noise and nobody was bothered by it. I could play my drums, I could play my music, I could do what I wanted, and I wasn't bothering anybody. And I will say there were other apartments above this crappy establishment, and those neighbors all turned out to be some of the best neighbors I've ever had. Some of the coolest people that I've ever known, some of the friendliest faces ever. We all looked out for each other. We all took care of each other. We you know, it was a nice little tiny community up on top of that place. So I just wanted to mention that. But things were great in this new place. Like I said, I was able to decorate how I wanted. Um, I ended up getting a little bit more furniture so I could have more places to put things and display things and put up shelves. Um, I could have visitors whenever I wanted, and I did. I had all kinds of visitors, all kinds of friends, all kinds of acquaintances, um, and a lot of interesting people. And some were more interesting than others, but I enjoyed every second of that. I could have people over whenever I want, and it didn't bother anyone. And it was quite honestly a good time. I enjoyed having my visitors. I enjoyed having my space. I enjoyed having my pets. I enjoyed having things set up the way I wanted. I enjoyed having my drums and my equipment set up. Um, when I first started this video series, I was still there. So when you see me in the red room with the drums behind me, that was the old living room that I turned into a studio. Um, but that's a story for another time. Yeah, having the studio and then the two bedrooms, I could have my bedroom to sleep in. And then I had this extra bedroom where I set it up with a couch, not a couch, a love seat and a TV. And if I didn't want to be in the big room, I could go sit in the small room. And, I had all my movies displayed and there was plenty of entertainment. I had plenty of CDs. They were on their shelves and I had all of the stuff that I loved in my life that I had collected was there. Everything was there. I had room for it all. Some of the closets were pretty packed, but I don't wear hanging clothes. So I really don't have any hanging clothes. All of my clothes are t-shirts and jeans and they're folded up, put somewhere. And I loved it. I loved this place and it was a really good time. I bought a bunch of rugs because only two of the rooms were carpeted. So the rest was hardwood. And I just put a bunch of rugs down and that was comfortable. And just having everything to myself again was fun. Being above this place wasn't quite so bad. Like I said, it was busy sometimes and it was loud sometimes. But you get used to that really quick. Place was close to the railroad tracks. So sometimes you could feel the place shake a little bit when the train would go. And you would get used to it. It was just another thing. It was something that was not an issue, not a problem. So I found this place to be quite comfortable. In fact, I had planned on staying there for a lot longer than I did, but situations happen, things change, and you just find yourself where you are. And sometimes when the wind blows in a certain direction, you just have to go with it. And that's where I am at now. But I'm going to take another break, and then I'm just going to finish up this video of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Welcome back to This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. I am on the topic of my second apartment, which was a great place and I loved it. However, things at work at this time were becoming extremely stagnant. I was just stuck in one place. I was never afforded um, any room to move. I was never given an opportunity to better myself at this work. They just kind of would give me the empty promises and I would just be stuck doing the same stuff. Eventually, I would be given more responsibility, but without compensation. I would be giving more things to do. And when I would ask, hey, can I get a raise for this? I would always be given the line of, well, let's see how it goes. And then we'll go from there. That just meant we're going to ignore it and we're not going to talk about it again, at least until I would bring it up. And it was difficult. It was discouraging that way. I had to, one of the raises I got, I had to beg for it for like 2 years. They were gonna give me this raise, and then for some reason the owner decided, oh, we gotta put a pause on all of that because of situations going on. So I had to wait. I had to wait, and it was difficult to financially exist. I was still having a hard time making ends meet, and I would tell them that, but they just didn't seem to care. You know, I liked where I worked, but they treated me like I didn't deserve the compensation. In fact, they mostly treated me like I should just be thankful that I had anything at all. They treated me like that a lot. Just be thankful you have a job. Just be thankful, you're lucky that we're giving you a place to work. We're doing you a favor. And a lot of the times, their treatment of me was inexcusable. It was inappropriate. They took complete advantage of me because they could give me extra things to do, and I would do it, of course, because that's how I operate. You give me something to do and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it extremely well, better than anybody else. Now, I'm not going to pick on anyone and say that they do a bad job. Everybody did a great job. I just did a better job. And that's the only way I could put it. That's the only way I see it. And it's not arrogance. It's not self-centeredness. It's me being honest. Me being honest. But again, I had to deal with the small minds and the big egos. It just seems no matter where I work, the higher up you are, the less you do and the less you consider anybody else. I always heard at this job, the more money this place makes, the more money we make. But that didn't count for me. It didn't apply to me. And it makes me wonder if like they got bonuses or something when sales were up. But the ones at the bottom didn't see any of it because they were at the bottom. And it didn't make any sense to me. They would always striving to improve and be better, but they weren't going to better things for us. They just wanted us to make things better for them. And again, I was labeled as being difficult without even finding out why I was unhappy. Never once did they ask me, not once did they ask me why I was upset. They would just label me difficult for being upset. And that was discouraging, and it was very off-putting. But I'm going to conclude this video. I don't mean to stop on such a downer, but I have some more to say, and I'm going to continue on with the next video. So I would like to thank you all for watching, and thank you for your support, and I thank you for existing. The world is a better place with you in it. And I'd like to say, please like, share, subscribe, and let's all support each other and build this community. That's all I want to do. I want us to all just get along. Just want us to have peace. So with that, I'll be back very soon with some more of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Thank you for watching.